I'm very good at sort of intuitively figuring out what makes people tick and what drives them. And I quickly identified that social justice warriors were sort of hurting and wanting everyone else to hurt like they were. When I very, very first started doing my speeches, because it was something I had felt myself, but only as a child. I had grown out of it, and clearly they had not grown out of it.
Right, right.
But I saw in them that same sort of petty, vengeful, vindictive desire to make the world burn because they were hurting, that I had felt myself as a 13, 14, 15-year-old. And so I understood them. And that's why I was able, and still am able, like nobody else, to get under their skin. Because I get what makes them tick in a way that not many other people do. Because none of the other conservatives who are sort of, withering, or contemptuous of them actually understand where they're coming from like I do, which is why they hate me like they hate nobody else.
Right. Well, because part of the thing that's so strange about you is that by all rights, you should be on their side.
I should be one of them, really.
Right.
I ought to be.
Right. That's right. Logically speaking, that would be your natural resting place. And so it is one of the things that, well, I also thought right from the beginning that was one of the things that put you in terrible long-term danger of, encountering a scandal that would do you in. I mean, it just seems so improbable to me that you could weather that degree of, and that's what I mean by the paradoxical combination that you bring to the situation. It's too many contradictory things to maintain themselves, regardless of your psychological integration or lack thereof.
I mean, I think I'm pretty well adjusted now, but I think perhaps another reason that this career stuff just doesn't bother me is that I don't work in the same economy that a lot of other people do, in the prestige economy. You wanted prestige when you asked Cambridge for that fellowship, and you sort of invited that little embarrassment on yourself because you asked for it, because although you've declared
well,
war,
they said I asked for it, but that wasn't exactly.
Well, if you didn't, you didn't, but you declared war on a class of institution, a higher education, to then ask for or expect or be pleased to receive baubles from institutions that you have declared war on, struck me as very odd and obviously destined for, a mess.
That's an interesting point. Might
and
have
it's
been
because
a moment of like false optimism.
I don't think it's false optimism. I think it's because you still live in the prestige economy, because I think that stuff matters to you. And I think that you'd probably prefer to see these institutions fixed and to have a prestigious place within one of them, rather than to see them burnt to the ground, as so many conservatives and progressives seem to want. They just want to tear up higher education. I don't think you want that. I think you want to fix it, and I think you want to be a crown.
Well, I think generally speaking, that fixing things is better than burning them to the ground.
Well, I think you want to fix them, and I think you want to be one of their crown jewels, and I think you operate in the prestige economy in a way that I simply don't. And that gives me power, because I don't care. I don't, that's sort of like a scandal from which you will not recover. Is there somebody in polite society who will invite me to a dinner party, who won't invite me to a dinner party now, who would have in January 2017? No. Is there a TV show that will have me on, that won't have me on now, but would have in January 2017? No. I mean, I had a blip on Bill Maher because of the college tour, but there was no hope in hell, no way in hell I was ever going to get a TV show or anything like that, because unlike you, I can't bite my tongue. And you I think are I see you maneuvering in a way that suggests that you want to do a lot of good and you're prepared to make some compromises in order to have a platform from which to do a lot of good in a lot of places. I'm a purist, and we differ in that, because I can't bite my tongue. And if I'm across the table from somebody who is an odious piece of I'm like, I'm going to tell them. And it's always, it's my greatest asset and my greatest weakness. But it's because I'm a purist in a way that you're not. And I don't live in that prestige economy that the rest of you all live in. And you all live in it. The whole conservative libertarian media ecosystem, you all crave prestige.
Well, what do you mean by the prestige economy exactly?
Position, recognition, titles, being a part of a sort of alternative polite society. You don't want to be excised from the church, because if you did, you wouldn't have signed up with CAA. You want to be part of the church, and I don't. And it can be very difficult for people who are part of the prestige economy, but people who want the TV show, want the fancy agent, want this, want that, and they want to like fix and rule these institutions. It can be very difficult for those people to truly understand someone like me who genuinely can't imagine anything worse. I cannot imagine anything more awful than having to make the sorts of constant compromises in what I say and do in order to maintain a position, because I know it's doomed anyway. Look at Roger Scruton. Did nothing wrong. He is beyond reproach. He is, he is the foremost conservative intellectual of his generation. And they just got him for saying something utterly innocuous in an interview. They're going to get you anyway. Nothing bad has happened to you yet, but it's going to. And I don't say that with any pleasure whatsoever. I sincerely do not, because I think.
Well, I've been expecting that for a very long period of time. Well, I'd say many bad things have happened to me. They just haven't taken me out.
Not really. I mean, in compared to what some of us have gone through, whether it's Laura or me or whatever, or Alex Jones or whatever, nothing really bad has happened.
Well, fair enough. Yes. It does depend on your comparison group. Well,
they are allowing you to grow. I'll tell you what they're doing with you, what they did with me, which is you allow this phenomenon to blossom up to the point you cannot bear it any longer, and then you crush it. And that is a horrifying warning to others not to overstep. So they did it with me. They let me get as far as Bill Maher and the tour and all the rest of it, and then they came for it. They're letting you climb higher. So your fall is going to be just like mine was, and they'll get you on something else. They'll get you on a complete nothing burger, because mine, let's face it, was a nothing burger. It was, the supposed scandal was predicated on an edited video which did not show that I said that I thought the age of consent was about right. Mm-hmm. And it was based on a lie. If it had been the case that everybody had seen what I originally said, they might have said, please explain this, but it would not have had the same effect that it did. It had the effect it did because it was a deceptive, dishonest, misleadingly edited video. Mm-hmm. Because I had created enemies on both left and right, the establishment right and the whole left teamed up to take me out. You are walking into the same position.
And so why do you see that it was the establishment right? Do you think that was
the ones who did it? They're the ones who did it. It was the Reagan. Well, it was the Reagan Battalion, the National Review crowd, who put that video together and shared it. They were the ones who manufactured this because they were upset that I didn't give a stuff about CPAC, because it means nothing to me. I didn't even know what it was at the time. But they were upset that I was speaking at CPAC because it was like their precious pure conservatism thing had been taken over by Trump world, right?
Right. Okay.
And they had to, and so they didn't care so much about the Bill Maher, but the sort of the National Review Reagan Battalion crowd who created and propagated and shared and whatever with this deceptively edited video did so because they couldn't bear the thought of me being the star turn at CPAC.
Okay, and you think that that's why they pushed so hard on the pedophilia front?
Yes, because they knew it's the one thing that the conservative base would go, yeah?
Right.
And the left didn't take me out. The right did.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
No, well...
the left took you out too as well.
So what power does the left have over me? What are they doing to me now that they weren't doing in January 2017? Nothing.
Well, I think what my impression, I'm not suggesting that I'm correct, but my impression was that it had something to do with the second of the two or three topics we were going to discuss, which was your claim that the experiences that you had are actually very characteristic of the gay community. And I thought that was unforgivable.
No, you see, interestingly, what actually happened about that specific thing is the entire gay liberal establishment went silent. Because what I said was, and I wouldn't phrase it this way again, because it was not quite what I meant, and it was, let's say, incautiously phrased, to put it mildly. What I said was that relationships between older men and I should have said younger men, are a common function of gay life. And I think I said after a lot of drinks on a late night live stream, they can be hugely positive experiences. I shouldn't have put it like that. I should have said they are a function of gay life. And in many cases, these sitting like a 35-year-old man with a 20-year-old or whatever, very often that 35-year-old will sort of induct the 20-year-old into the gay way of things, show them where the clubs are, show them the ropes, in lieu of parents, because the boy's parents don't understand him, maybe don't even know, or have rejected it or whatever. So very often there's a sort of father, there's either an avuncular or a paternal dimension to these relationships. On that point, and indeed throughout the whole controversy, the gay left went silent. And February 21st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2017, gay journalists were nowhere to be found in America because they did not want to have that discussion because they know it's true. Okay,
well, so is that a consequence of abandoning you by inaction then?
No. What I'm saying is that's not what was so unforgivable. That wasn't the problem.
Okay, so then, well, in that case, then I guess it's a matter of not so much the difference in age, but the difference in when that age difference starts. So let's say, 34.
So we've had a conversation so far, which has presumed that the contents of what I said was important and that we should dissect it. This is a mistake, because it doesn't matter what I said. It doesn't matter whether I was right to say it or what the nuances or vagaries are of a particular statement that I say is deceptively edited here or whatever. It doesn't matter. Narrative was established and it was repeated by right and left, and the person was ejected from public life and from whatever, right? This is what's going to happen to you. This is what's going to happen to Ben. This is what's going to happen to Dave Rubin. Because nobody stood up for me, the playbook became established. And now that is your fate, all of you. That's how you're all going to go out. And it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what the subject was. Doesn't matter what the incautious phrase was. I mean, Candace Owens, it could have happened to her recently with her she tripped over herself saying something about Hitler, and there was a sentence that I'm sure she would phrase differently a second time. Everyone sort of knew what she meant, but it could, if the stars had aligned, have done to her what happened to me in February 2017. The content doesn't matter. It was the fact that the left and right decided to take this person out, and any pretext would have done fine. So we've had a discussion sort of talking about, well, what was it you said that was so unacceptable? Nothing. It was me.